Lil Durk trial, the opening statements are done. 4 government witnesses have testified. Let's get you caught up on everything you need to know. So the government went out, they laid out their case, the motive, the beef between Quando and Lil Durk's camp, this concept that Durk is the leader, OTF is a gang, they're involved in killings. They laid out the text messages, the music videos, that the cooperators are going to explain exactly what Durk's role in all of this was. I thought the strongest thing the prosecution did is they laid out the timeline that predates this August 19, 2022 shooting at Quando Rondo, and that in fact there were prior shootings, and all of it kind of really lends to itself to building the story that these two camps hated each other and they were going after one another. As I'll discuss in a moment, the defense had a good response to that, which is drawing this division between OTF Vani and Durk Banks and putting all the prior attempts that the prosecution spent a lot of time planning in the jury's head on OTF Vani. I thought that the defense's opening was a lot stronger. They had the great quote, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you're trying to follow the money in this murder for hire trial, you will not be able to, because this is a murder for hire where nobody got paid." Durk Banks' lawyers, and it was Marissa Goldberg, not Drew Finling, who did the opening statement in this case, and I thought that made a lot of sense. Most of the jury is women, a lot of white women. Marissa Goldberg is a white woman who is cold as ice, stone cold serious. Not the type of showman Drew Finling is. There's a time and a place for the showmanship, but when you open up in a case where the jury's going to see the autopsy videos of a young man with bullet holes riddled all over his body, you need a very, very serious tone. That's the exact tone Durk Banks' attorney struck. I thought she gave a tremendous opening. I thought most of her opening was built on directly rebutting everything that the prosecution had just showed. So this concept of cooperators, she pointed out, hey, look, these are admitted murderers who are going to get convicted and sent to life, and the only way they can get out is to use Durk Banks as an insurance policy, somebody to pin the blame on. She talked about the first cooperator, OTF Jam. A lot has been said. She labeled him a quote-unquote massive cooperator who gave over 30 interviews to law enforcement in the very short time. He had spent 12 years in prison. He got out. He's only out for about a year. He's already talked and started trying to give up information 30 different times to police. Some of the times he knew nothing about Durk. Later, when charges and cooperation were on the table, he all of a sudden had all the goods about Durk. There was also a lot of talk about OTF Vani. OTF Vani, one of the cooperators, Durk's lawyers pinned him as the real ringleader, that Durk's not a ringleader. They said, look, if you look at the evidence, you're going to see Durk tells people to do things. They're not doing what Durk says. They're stealing from Durk. They're talking shit about Durk. Durk is his own little world, doing celebrity entertainment things. He's got a lot of stuff going on. It was OTF Vani who, not only this murder that he orchestrated, not only did he get the rental cars, the guns, the ski masks, arrange everybody to be there, pick them up, take them to the scene. This wasn't the first time he did all that. He has a modus operandi, and he has done this before in an attempt to get at Quando Rondo, including in Georgia, including other occasions. And so the case is really going to boil down, as it always was, the cooperators versus Durk. There's some evidence in there, but a lot of it is explainable. For example, there was that text message. Durk says, hey, don't book no flights under my name. His lawyers pointed out that when you look at the evidence, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that text clearly had nothing to do with this murder, and what Durk was talking about was a completely different event. And oh, by the way, the guy Vani did end up booking the flights using a credit card connected to OTF. So to the extent Durk, as the ringleader, is giving instructions to people, they're not following them. Ultimately, where is this case going? This case is wide open. The prosecution presented a narrative. The defense presented a narrative. The narratives do not matter. What matters is the evidence. I don't give a shit what you guys think you heard in music songs. I don't care what you think you saw on the internet. The jury is not going to hear any of that narrative. The jury is going to hear evidence from witnesses on the stand. I will say, I think the biggest problem you're facing if you're Durk Banks' defense team is trying to present a picture to the jury without them getting thrown off by the co-defendant's defense team, because there's actually 3 defendants in this case, not just one. And the 3 defendants, they tried to sever the charges and have only a single defendant. However, that didn't work out. And so now you have 3 defendants, and their stories kind of complicate things, and they don't make a lot of sense. For example, one of the guys, OTF Didi, he said, And both the co-defendants said, hey, we never agreed to a murder. We didn't even know there was going to be a murder. Okay, well, why are you there? Didi said he's there because he heard the OTF was going to be there, and he's found that it's a good idea to be around. You might be able, he had a music career. He was a budding, aspiring rap artist, and so he likes to be around and try to get some studio time, try to get into a music video. The other guy, his lawyer went up there and said, hey, he also didn't know anything. He didn't agree to anything. Why was he there? The other guy didn't explain why he was there. He just said, oh, well, he was there. He never kind of explained that. And so it's an interesting case because you have this celebrity superstar powerhouse legal team that's defending the case. And not only do they have to defend the case against the prosecution, but they have to deal with the co-defendants' cases, which all of them kind of are telling slightly different stories while they're all trying to throw a perfect pitch down the middle to proclaim their innocence. We had 4 witnesses complete their testimony. 1 witness is still testifying. OTF Jam will be testifying tomorrow. There was an important evidentiary dispute about some of the texts allegedly between Jam and Durk. We'll get into that. First, let's get into the testimony. The way to understand the testimony is 2 parts. First, they covered all the people who could tell you the uncontested facts about this gruesome murder. The 911 call, the crime scene investigation unit, the coroner, the first officer on the scene, and it all established, the 911 call came in, woman crying, oh my God, there's some shooting, they ran into the alleyway, don't give my name, click. Then there was the first officer on the scene. A pedestrian flagged him, said, hey, there's a car shot up, there's a guy that looks like he's in the car laying there. The officer went to the car, tried to pull him out. You see Quando in the body cam footage yelling no. The officers doing their best, they cannot revive the young man. You saw the crime scene investigation unit detective, and he explained the bullet fragments and casings and everything that was picked up at the scene. There was like 16 to 20 shots fired at this Escalade while it was pumping gas at a gas station. And then there was the coroner, and the coroner showed the pictures of the autopsy and the bullet holes inside this young man's body. At that moment, it became absolutely clear that the narratives and all the gossip and drama surrounding this case is really irrelevant. This case is about a cold-blooded murder. This case will be determined by evidence. Then we got into the lead detective, the detective who was in charge of building the case. And when you see his testimony, you understand why there are cooperators, not informants. People didn't inform on what they know about what happened. There are people who were guilty as hell who then admitted their guilt in the hopes of getting a lesser sentence by pinning it on other people. And so you could see their guilt. I mean, this cop, they first they had the surveillance. So the surveillance, they picked up on this guy's pants, and his pants had a very distinctive set of patches and tears in it that spelled out rags to riches. That connected back to a Chicago clothing boutique, only place you could have got that. Once they made the connection to Chicago, they started sharing some of the surveillance and some of the still images of the people that they had caught on camera with Chicago PD. Chicago PD identifies some of these people as OTF affiliated. Then they get onto the rental car. Apparently OTF Vani rented a car from an exotic rental company in Las Vegas, a BMW M5. He used that car thoroughly while stalking and being right there at the scene of this murder. That rental car gave them all the information they needed. I mean, it gave them tons and tons of info. GPS coordinates, this and that. How did this all stack up to Durk Banks? Well, look, when you follow the detective's testimony, it's unquestionable that the people who have cooperated were in the car, were there, were shooting. You see them on camera. How does it connect to Banks today? As far as they got, the only real connection they could make is that Banks had been staying at a home that they rented for almost $40,000 a month for long before this murder happened. He's been out there for a couple months. He had planned to be there for a while. Then they've got OTF Vani's rental car's GPS coordinates showing that he would go to that house back and forth. Now, what was said in that house, did it have anything to do with the murder conspiracy? We haven't gotten there yet. So what they've done, what they've established, uncontested facts about the murder, uncontested that Vani and some of these other cooperators did this, you could see it on camera, and uncontested that Vani's rental car was at this home occupied by Durk Banks. There was a narrative out there, I heard, that, oh, Durk had flown out to LA at the time of, no, he was already in LA. He was based in LA. He was operating out of LA like many entertainers do, with the rental home and his wife and his kids all staying there with him. So all in all, a good day for Durk. It's not anywhere where he was really hurt. I thought actually the one part the investigator tried to put a line and a thought into the jury's head. He said, oh, as you can see from these videos, you see OTF Vani and you see Lil Durk, and they're at all these jewelry stores, and he's his assistant. You can see he's negotiating jewelry transactions for him. And then Brian Steele's there. He said, objection, that's speculation. Where's he coming from? That he just saw a YouTube video where the guy's in a jewelry store together. How is he negotiating transactions on behalf of Lil Durk? The objection was sustained. That means that the testimony was not allowed as to that point. Where does that leave us? Well, OTF Jam will be testifying tomorrow. We'll get the rest of the lead investigator's testimony to see if he can build further links to Durk Banks. And ultimately, we're going to get OTF Vani's testimony probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday of this week. Stay tuned.